Hello, my fellow collecting friends. It's your boy, Hidden Numismatist, back at you again with another piece of Confederate currency that I recently obtained in my Confederate collection. And I want to show and explain this to you. We all know that this is President Jefferson Davis, who was the Confederate president. And this run has a series of 4 different varieties in this series. The obverse is basically the same, but the reverse has subtle changes. The obverse does change as well, but the most of the time when we see a type number change has to do with the reverse of the Confederate note, and also the obverse as well, but not so much. It's mostly the reverse that shows the true differences in the different types. Anywho, back to this one. This one is the type 16 that I needed from 1861, and this is the first one among the 4. And this is called a uniface because there's nothing here, obviously, on the back. And what's really exciting is, like I said, this is the first one in the 4 design run. And in my album here, I already prepared its pocket. There's one more that I do need to get in this run of this series, and that will come at a later time because that's the toughest. But this is the earliest one that I have, which is the type 16 from 1861. And then this is the next one from type 57 from 1862. And now we have a little ornate reverse. You see, all the obverse is generally the same. Now there are differences in the obverses, my friends, where we talk about the background, the color of the paper itself, right? And Confederate experts like Pierre Friquet and others that really specialize Confederate notes call those Fen numbers, I believe. And within each type, there are subtypes, or called Fens. I'm not doing my typeset really in an elaborate sense, but this was one of the 4 that I needed. I only need one more, and that will probably never happen. And then the last one, the third one that I have is the most recent, or the newest one. And this is called, I believe, light pink paper. And this is from 1864, and its type number is 66. And in Confederate back currency, we call this the 50 blue web. We call this the 50 blue web. There's the 20 blue web, 10 blue web, what have you. But that's the series of 66. So this is really exciting, my friends. I want to explain to you the history of the type 16, its little subtle varieties that I pulled from Pierre Friquet's page, and discuss those with you, because these Confederate notes are extremely desirable to collect. The type 16, my friends, let's turn back to the page. I didn't put it in all the way to save time. The type 16 features President Jefferson Davis. He was the Confederate president. The color of the note overall is black and green print. And all of this information has to do with the type 16 and its nuances. So regarding the type 16 as being black and green prints, this type was issued from April 17 to 1862 through December 10 of 1862. It has no series production. The printer was Keatinge Ball in Richmond, Virginia, and that's below the fundable clause at the left of the note. In other words, the author is describing the note on where the technical fundable clauses and statements are found. It's on printed paper, watermarked with a CSA in script letters. Again, regarding the Type 16, my friends, this is the first of the four $50 types that honor Jefferson Davis, who had a long history of government service culminating in his presidency of the Confederacy. The note has a green overprint. It was receivable in payment of all dues and fundable in 8% stock. The Type 16 was printed in two series and on various types of paper. Some of the rarest Confederate varieties are the Type 16s. So this is a tough one, but he's also saying, what Mr. Freak is saying is, these are the different plen numbers that he's referring to within the Type 16. These include the Type 16 PF 2, 4, 5, 6, 13, 16. The PF6 with numbered plate notes 1A, 2A, 3A, and 4A, instead of the letters, for example, WA, was long thought to be the rarest Confederate note. However, further research has proven that this is not to be the case, with the four varieties of the Type 16 of even greater rarity. It still remains an elusive and highly sought-after variety and plen set. This is what they mean by that, plen set. Of course, I'm not doing the plen set. I started off with a basic just typeset of Confederate notes, but then when I noticed and I got more educated on these notes that the type numbers, most of the differences is because of the reverse changes, like I said, and there's some subtle obverse changes, I fell in love once I saw, yes, the obverse is basically the same, but look how beautiful the reverses are changing. We go from uniface, which is very historical in Confederate, and then it shows the improvement or complexity and how the technology improves, where we're able to do ornate designs on the reverse. So I said, well, dang it, I can't just do a basic typeset of Confederate notes. I like the subtle varieties. And so began my hunt on getting educated on the subtle varieties within the types, but I'm not doing the plen numbers within the Type 16. I'll leave the plen to really dedicated Confederate States of America collectors, and I don't really know of anyone that exists. I'm sure there are in the United States, but that's an extremely difficult thing, in my opinion, to do. Within each type has its own plen set. I mean, goodness gracious. I mean, that's a major set. Anyway, to continue with the Type 16, my friends, the old Breiber Criswell 86 has been delisted as it had never been identified in any collection. That's very important to note. This is important. So the Criswell 86 for the Type 16, it's never been identified. When found, it is always the contemporary counterfeit CT16-86, unfortunately. The Type 16 is rarely encountered in choice except to choice unk. There are a number of uncirculated examples around, and it is readily available in high grade in high circulated grades. However, one would be extremely lucky to find some of the rare varieties in any grade, even fair or poor. And you all know me. When I do my albums and my sets, I like uniformity. I avoid, like the plague, problem notes if I can. I don't like pinbacks. I don't like writing. I don't like tears. I don't like repaired bills. I like original. And when I saw this on one of my favorite sellers' store, and at a fine, he graded it as a fine, which I agree with. I'm very happy with it. It's a straight fine. It has no problems. It has no pinholes. It's nice, original, even wear on the obverse and reverse. And that's the consistency that I try to do. Let it be coins or currency, right? As I stated earlier, my friends, this this series has 4 different ones. The one that I recently got, this one, is from 1861, the Type 16. Look at the print run. This is basically mintage figures, if you will. But in currency, we say how many were printed or what the print run was. So as you can see here, among the 3 that are doable of the 4, this is the one that I'm missing. The Type 16 has a print run of 425,944. However, the Type 57, this one, see, we get more beautiful reverses, no more uniface, has a 2,349,600,000 a print run. And then this bad boy here has a lower print run, which is very interesting because usually on the blue webs, blue web reverses, these usually have the highest print run within that series. But for some reason they printed, well, they just needed 1,671,444, okay? Not 45, 44, okay? Again, the Type 50 that I need is the 1862, with a print run of 414,200. I don't, and like I said, as our brother Pierre Freak mentioned regarding the 16, this is being the first. I think I'm happy for now. If I find the Type 50 in a darn good price, that is probably going to be a lower grade. But again, I'm going to try to avoid, like the plague, any note that has problems. Because when you go to try to sell that piece of currency and it has problems, like it's been taped or repaired, or it has pinholes or writing or tears, like corner tears or missing, anything like that, a note that has problems is always going to be harder to sell later on down the road than a note that does not have any problems. Overall, numismatically, that's the rule of thumb. So if I do find a Type 50, it's going to be a lower grade. It's not going to be a fine, very fine, what have you. Dang it, I have a feeling it's going to be expensive. I may settle for VG, and that will have to probably be graded VG, a strict VG, to maintain that integrity and the value of it. You don't want to buy a really, really tough note raw. That should be graded. So that's the addition that I put in my Confederate notes. Yeah, I'm sure that you're all wanting to get through the meats and potatoes, get a quick overview of it, bring you up to par very quickly, and then I will bid you all a fair day. There's a variety on this one that I'm working on. You can pause the video. I go through this album much more deep in a totally different video. So you're welcome to find that on my playlist. I have a playlist for Confederate currency. And you're welcome to watch this one I recently got. This is another within another mini-series. See how this is the Type 33 uniface. And then this one, the Type 34. I cracked that out. There was no need for that to be in a... It didn't need to be graded. You can crack that note out. It's not a difficult note or what have you. Continuing with the 5s. Again, here it is. My numismatic brothers and sisters. See, this is a new type here. See how the Obverse is basically the same. Pink paper, white paper, dark pink paper. I believe that's actually called light pink to the Confederate experts. And then the reverses are different. That's light pink. That's white. This is the 5 web, blue web. And then a beautiful 10. These are just... This is the Confederate States of America is extremely enjoyable to collect. I mean, it's a bug, and it's a good one. Very, very enjoyable. This is a very desirable one. $20 note, Confederate. Pretty tough, the Type 9. And within that mini-series, the lower the number, the more desirable it is within that variety, right? So within this variety, or this subtype, if you will, the older the one it is, the older it is within that series, the more desirable it is. Usually in Confederate states. Again, look at this real quick, and then how there is one that's very similar to it, but very different. Very similar. Pink, white. And then the reverse, the modern 20 blue web reverse. And that's where the new 50 will go that we talked about in this video. And then the newest 50. And here comes the hundreds. These are really, really tight. And then the settled varieties I've talked about on my channel between these two. No diffuse steam and diffuse steam varieties. So, yeah. This is the Type 39 reverse. This was, interest was paid on that one. But that's from the dealer. The Type 39. And then this is the other variety that I got within this series. Again, the subtle differences. This is probably my favorite 100 right here. That's tight. Then, of course, I love the Lucy Pickens. This is very, very popular. This 100 is very popular in the Confederate States. This is more well known than any other hundreds. And here's your boy's 500 that he got maybe 3 years ago. There is 1,000 in Confederate States of America, and it's extremely expensive because the print run was very, very, very low. So that will probably, I mean, that's an extreme key date, if you will. And most Confederate States of America collectors don't have the 1,000 or any denomination basically over even 100. The 500 is undoable to a lot. I had to save up for that 500, and I'm glad I did, because even within the short 3 years that I've had it, its demand has even increased numismatically. So thank you all for joining me today, my numismatic brothers and sisters, and my journey through this Confederate States of America album. Let me all know what you think. In the meantime, take care of each other, be kind to each other, and most importantly, may God bless you all. Bye-bye.